And welcome to the show. Man, this is weird. It's been a while since I watched that intro. For those who maybe are new to the channel or just joining us tonight, uh, I have been a guest here at Untold Radio since we started the network, and I have taken the last few months off and kind of, needed the break, needed to spend some time at some other stuff that needed my attention, but I had said I'd come back and do a show if I felt there was something to come back and do a show about. And that's what I'm doing tonight. To be completely honest, I wish there was a more joyous reason to do the show. But I can tell you in a couple of years that I've been doing streams on YouTube, there's never been a more worthy reason to do a show and hit the go live button. So I'm here tonight. Most of you have read the description. Maybe you have read the bit that was typed under it. But for the fact that we have a big reach here at Untold with our podcast audience that are going to hear this after the fact, I want to take the opportunity to read the description that we put on the video. So you guys on the podcast stations can see Joe Snyder, Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group, my friend and fellow researcher entering hospice. About 1 month ago, Joe woke up with some sore ribs, and later that evening he asked his wife Molly to take him to the emergency room. And an x-ray confirmed that he had either one or two broken ribs, but a CAT scan, when they did that imaging the ribs, they had glimpsed just the top edge of his liver in that CAT scan. Not purposefully, it was just the bottom area of that scan. And they noticed on his liver that it was completely shadowed in, which is not normal. So a week ago, he couldn't get out of bed. They had diagnosed him with stage 4 liver cancer. And about a week ago, he couldn't get out of bed. Had terrible back pain. He was suffering from a crushed vertebrae due to the cancer being in his bones, not just in his liver. And Joe has spent the last week in the hospital, and he is going to be transferring to hospice in the next few days. So we're hoping that he can settle in with home hospice, but to give you an opportunity to understand how I became aware of this, I mean, I've been a friend of Joe's for a couple of years, and we've spent an awful lot of time together, deep conversations. When he lost his friend a little over a year ago, his best friend, we spent many nights on the phone together, and he was broken at that point and needed someone to talk to. And I know many people in our friends group, Leon, Brent, Steve, there's a lot of people who, Nikki, who had been talking to him at that point. And Joe's never been afraid to reach out when he needs someone to talk to, and I appreciate that. But I was off the grid. I was spending time in Montana for a few weeks, came back, and I'm catching up on YouTube and Facebook and all the social media, and I see these posts from Joe talking about how he's got cancer. And I'm like, in 1 hour, I went from what had happened for them in about a 2-week span was happening to me information-wise in about an hour. So At first, I read he's got cancer. They're hoping a year or two, maybe get some treatment. Not sure how invasive it is. And then that switched to 6 months, like within a day after the next test. It was, wow, we don't have that long. Maybe 6 months. And within 2 or 3 days after that, there were posts where doctors had told Joe, you're probably looking at a few weeks. And for those who know Joe, he's not some white collar guy with a big bank account. I mean, Joe's a grinder. Joe loves life, lives life well, but he does it on a budget, man. And when he's not out enjoying the outdoors and whatnot, he's delivering food and just trying to grind away and make some money. And Molly has a decent job, but there's a lot on their plate. And like many of us, they may find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. So when something like this comes along, it's not just the devastating news that it brings with. There are going to be expenses that, believe it or not, that's what's really burdening Joe. Joe's come to accept that this is where he's at right now. And if I was to put myself in Joe's place, I think the hardest thing to deal with wouldn't be that I have to go. It'd be the pain and the burden that I would put on my wife or my children and things like that. So Joe was really concerned about the cost of a burial and a funeral. And so their friends started a GoFundMe. And let me pull that up here. Let's get this. There we go. Hold on just a second here. All right. So this is Joe's GoFundMe. I'm going to put the link one more time in chat. It's going to be in chat throughout the evening. And I'll tell you what, people have stepped up big time. They set a lofty goal of $10,000, and that was only, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And they have raised $8,615. And I would like to see that money released to Molly so that she can have some peace of mind that she's going to be able to cover these final expenses while she's grieving. And because it's inevitable that that's where she's going to be. And I think that it would be nice to see Joe be able to spend his last time here, that whatever he has left, without the burden of worrying about how she's going to handle that. So I would love to see us put him over. We will be not only doing this show live here and encouraging people to help, we are going to be putting this out to our podcast platform, which is expansive. And we are appreciative of the following that we have here on Untold. Typically, what we have when we do a live show here on YouTube, most of us end up with, between 50 and 100 live viewers. And within, a week or so, we'll have 700 to 1,000 views on a lot of the shows. But the reach that we have on our podcast platforms, and I mean every platform that we put the show to, that same show could get up to 5,000 to 10,000 views. So I wanted to put together an effort to help Joe and Molly tonight that didn't just reach our friendship circle and followers of YouTube, but expands out to our followers out in the podcast world. And tonight we're going to be putting the link in chat here in just a little bit. I'm going to invite people to pop on. Joe is watching the show tonight. I've been talking to Joe here for a little bit earlier before we started the show. And, you know, he might pop on towards the end of it. He's going to be in chat. He might pop on towards the end to let people know how appreciative he is. And I can tell you he is very appreciative of this. But I was really hoping he'd just be able to sit back in his hospital room with Molly and just kind of soak this up, because I think that the most meaningful thing that I'm sorry, I hate my voice cracking because this is pretty emotional for me. But I think that the most meaningful thing that we can do for Joe is let him know how big of a part he played and is playing right now, and probably always will play if these videos stay on YouTube, in helping so many people in this community deal with encounters that they've had, experiences that they've had, trying to learn about the subject. Joe approached this whole thing with such a grounded mindset, and he applies a lot of logic to how he views things. Coupling that with his own encounter really amplified the passion that he has to carry on doing shows in the community, and he did for years. He's had most of us hosts here on the Untold Network on as guests. Doug, myself, I think he had Dr. Russ on. I know he had Brian King Sharp. And, you know, so as a network, we have a empty space in our heart right now that is trying to figure out not only to wrap our heads around what Joe's going through, but trying to figure out what we could do to help him. And I think the most probably logical explanation would be to do a show to try to put them over the top in their fundraising. So again, I just to give those who may be listening on podcast an idea of who Joe Snyder is. Joe is a husband to Molly, and he is a host, had a channel that for some time was known as Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group. It is now known as the Hominin X Inquiry, but you can find those on YouTube. I will put the links to them in the comments for the show. Joe's also a veteran. And when I think back of all the things that Joe's talked about and shared on his show, when I think about what's that highlight reel for me contain, I was really impressed and appreciative that Joe did not resist being vulnerable at times. When he shared what it was like for him as a kid with his dad and the difficult times that he had, it gave me an opportunity to look into him further than what we would maybe see most influencers out there. You only get to know what they are willing to show you. And Joe was willing to show us an awful lot. And I appreciate that. Always will appreciate that. And Joe, I know you're listening. I want you to know that you got an awful lot of people that love you here and care about you and Molly. And I'm going to post that link so that people can pop on. And whether or not you want to share a story about Joe, some of your fun memories of his show, whatever, I don't want to sit here and talk about him like he's gone, because he's not. But at the same time, I have this really hard and difficult task of accepting that he soon will be, and he knows this. And he's trying to do what he can to accept that. He's done a really good job in my mind. As far as yesterday, day before yesterday, I spent over an hour talking to him on FaceTime, and he still has a sense of humor, and he still has this passion. And I hope that is there until he breathes his last breath. But let me get the link out, and anybody who wants to come on and join us, I would invite you to do so. I know we've got quite a few that are friends of Joe's, but look, you don't have to be somebody who messages Joe every day and whatnot. Listen, if you want to come on and talk about, man, I remember the first time I watched a show or one of my favorite episodes, whatever, I'd love to hear it all. And I think Joe would love to hear it all too. I think the most meaningful thing that we could do for Joe is let him be aware of the impact he's had on all of us in this journey and in this community. So, looks like that link went out. Hopefully it is active. Anyways, yeah, we got a lot of viewers here, 68 viewers. Appreciate you guys tuning in for this. Again, I will be putting the GoFundMe up there, and just so that you guys can see this, yeah, they're at $8,615 out of the $10,000 that was trying to raise. And again, that will go to help Molly cover funeral costs and final expenses. Joe also has a Caring Bridge site that if you go on Facebook and follow the Hominin X Inquiry, you will see Joe's daily, not daily, but every few days, he's putting up a quick little video of him from the hospital. And looks like they were going to have some treatments they were going to give to him, another biopsy, ablation of the lesion on his spine, and kyphoplasty. I don't know how to say most of this stuff, but this was stuff they were going to do in the next couple of weeks, and they ended up doing it yesterday. So I haven't heard yet how any of that went, but the goal is to try to get Joe to where if he can transfer to home hospice and be at home, that he could hopefully do this as pain-free as possible. But with his bones breaking, they're so brittle, it's going to get harder and harder, I think. But hopefully they can find a way to manage that. And first off, let's bring in Nikki. How are you, Nikki?
Hey.
I know you're on the road right now. You had a funeral for a family member this week, didn't you?
Yeah, we laid my cousin to rest yesterday. Hold on one second while I change the settings here, because I can barely hear you. Okay, maybe that'll do better. Okay.
That better?
Oh yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah, it's it's tragic. All the stuff that's been going on in the last few weeks. Not just my family, but the whole Bigfoot family out there. We've had a lot of passing, and it's ugly. I know it happens, but it's sad. It's very sad, and of course, I've been crying for a couple days now. So
Yeah.
uh, all those things come to your mind when you do stuff like that. But Joe, man, I love you, dude. You you have a very good heart, and you welcome everybody. You never ever disappoint. You have your great sense of humor, and yeah, there's probably so much more I could say but everybody already knows. We love you, and all your escapades, and that won't ever stop. Those memories are right here, and you're right here still. So it's not over yet. You're not over. You're here still, and so there's still things to be said.
Yeah.
So
Alex Petticoff's in chat. He says, I'll never forget meeting Joe a few years ago at the Whitehall Sasquatch Festival in New York. We got to go out squatching with Culls and crew. Enjoyed my conversation with Joe over these past couple years. Yeah, I can tell you everybody, and I don't say this just lightheartedly. I can tell you everybody who's ever had an opportunity to spend time with Joe, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him. I mean, you know how it is when you have a YouTube show. You'll always have a handful of people who just can't exist without saying something bad about somebody. But Joe is probably out of all of us had the fewest, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that for me, the hardest thing to grasp here is how quickly this progressed from a sore rib feeling like you slept on it wrong.
Well, Joe calls me, and
that was 33 days ago. He
called me because it had seemed like his pain was the same that I had when I ripped the muscle on my rib. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that's all it is. That's, it's exactly how I felt. They did all those tests too. And it was just, I have a little tear there on my rib, and it feels like somebody's stabbing you. But, man, it just didn't get better, and it didn't get better.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was surprising to him that he even, that first step, that he had a broken rib. Like, it's like, how did this happen? I just sleeping. I don't remember falling or doing anything weird. So that was really puzzling to him. But I think when that first CAT scan showed up and they said, well, there's some shattering on your liver, we got to look at this. Let's run some tests. Within days, they were saying, dude, you've got stage 4 liver cancer. And I can't imagine going from, wow, I have this. I mean, at first, he didn't even know if he should go to the doctor. He told Molly, let me just see how it goes today. And then by that night, it hurt so badly. He said, you got to take me to the emergency room.
Right.
But that was 33 days ago. I mean, that was, if I'm not mistaken, August 13th. And so here we are, September 15th. It is crazy how fast it went from, wow, my side is sore, to dude, you've got a couple weeks to live. And I think that is the hardest thing for most of us to really wrap our head around, especially Joe himself. I mean, to sit here and think, how did this go from that to this? So, I mean, talk about blindsided, you know. But I'm going to bring Jen in. Jen was a co host for Joe on his show for a long time and probably knows him as well, if not better, than most of the people we're going to talk to tonight. How are you, Jen?
Hanging in there. A little heartbroken like everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you had an opportunity to spend an awful lot of time with Joe doing his show. And what a for those who, I mean, a lot of us kind of have gotten to know Joe, those who are in our chat that have watched his channels. We've got a lot of people listening on podcasts that never even heard his name before tonight. So I'm wondering if you could help some of us understand what type of person Joe is based on your experience working with him. What are some of the things that you've noticed about him when it comes to character and things like that that really stood out to you?
Oh, he very self-deprecating but very smart. He knows a lot. And just a very sweet, very honest, very forthright guy, you know?
Yeah.
If he loves you, he loves you, you know? He's
He is very, very intelligent.
he is.
And when it comes to, you know, even things that he doesn't subscribe to theory wise, he would still educate himself on so that he could have the discussion without looking ignorant or, you know, missing something.
And
His knowledge when it comes to evolution and things like that was really quite astounding, to be honest.
Yeah, and never afraid to say I don't know, which is comes few and far between sometimes. You know, the willingness just to go,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, another thing I could tell you about Joe is this is something that maybe me and him shared in common, and I'm not saying that it could be a good thing, it could not be a good thing depending on how you do with it, but he didn't suffer fools easily.
Yeah.
And you know, if he saw somebody say something that did not make sense to him, he wasn't unkind. He wasn't disrespectful, but he wouldn't give you a free pass either. He'd ask you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't afraid to do that. He wasn't trying to be confrontational. He's trying to understand, why do you feel that way?
Why do you feel that way? What brings you to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's share
I remember
ideas.
one night on Steve Cole's show, Steve, somebody in his chat had said, the only place that Sasquatch exists is in the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't exist in the north. It doesn't exist in the central part of North America. It doesn't exist on the East Coast at all. The only place it could exist is the Pacific Northwest. Now, a lot of people are like, dude, you're stupid. Dude, you're an idiot, right? Not Joe. Joe said, what evidence do you have of that? And that's an intelligent question, because if he doesn't have evidence of that, the discussion's really over. I mean, Joe just did not give people a free pass on. I think he understood that one of the most dangerous things there is not to this community is that when people who have a following and people who have a large group, a population that looked to them as somebody who they could use as a resource, comes out and expresses opinions as fact. That was a problem for him. That's always been a problem for me. I mean, I don't care if you want to precursor it and say, here's something that I kind of feel may be true, whatever. But when you come out and act like, well, when you do this or when you hear this is what this means, like it's fact, I think that just spun Joe's head. He was like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah, well, I know he does like to fly by the seat of his pants a lot too, because there were many a show where he'd be like, hey, let's talk about this, and then it come to showtime, and I'd been researching for a week and a half, and I hop on and he go like, I pulled up these 2 articles, let's go.
I'd send Joe a message sometimes like 15 minutes before his show start, and I'd say, what are you covering tonight? And he's like, I'm not sure yet. I'm like, what? But
he has stamina, that's for sure. He would do 2 shows on his channel, then he came on to my show, and then he went on to Steve's Cole's show.
Yeah.
He was like, boom, just hopping around, man. He hops around.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, how's it going?
Brent's popping in. I know he's at a family thing this weekend, but I appreciate you finding the time to jump in. And
about ready to head out. But yeah, no, I mean, how could I not? I mean, it's Joe. I mean, we all love Joe. I mean, he's one of a kind. You know, I wish, you know, there's so many wishes out there that you wish you could have. And, you know, it's, I'm just fortunate that I had the opportunity to get to know him as much as I have and still do. And, you know, I, you know, love his humor coming from his, you know, from his room and stuff. And it's, yeah, it's good. It's hard. Yeah, it's not gonna lie. It's very hard though, because it's, you know, as you were talking about, it happened so quick. It's like, boom, you know, and you know, you know, just, you know, you know, it's unfortunate that, that this happens. And with Molly, it's like, man, I'm so happy that we're going to be there for Molly and stuff, because she really needs a lot of support as well. And, you know, so, yeah, Joe, if you're watching this, which I'm sure you are, you know, love you lots, man. And, you know, thinking of you all the time and stuff. So, yeah, these are hard. These are like the hardest things for me and stuff. And, you know, it's just that it's tough when somebody goes through this. And, but, yeah, Joe's an amazing person, and, who will leave a legacy that, he'll be proud of.
Yeah, I think that there are so many people who, I mean, we see this throughout your show, Nikki's show, when I was doing a show, so many of the same names that were using a lot of us as an influence or a resource. And but you look at how many people Joe has touched over the years and helped in their journey of learning about Sasquatch or trying to deal with an encounter that they had, and they hear him sharing what he's experienced. I don't think Joe will ever have an opportunity here on earth to understand how many people he touched. I mean, really, we look at views on a video and think, oh, you know, so many hundred people watch. We don't get what that compounds and adds up to, and how many people can honestly say, man, I'm thankful for what that guy did for me. And yet they aren't going to email that guy or call him and say, thank you. You're really, Joe's probably unaware of 95% of the people that appreciated him and that he helped over the years. And so I just wanted to hope that tonight could be a night that as he's sitting in the hospital with Molly, he could really grasp how many people he affected in such a positive way, you know.
And, you know, just the glimpse that I've had into his life, you know, being like a Facebook friend with him and stuff, it seems like, you know, it transcended the Bigfoot community too. And in, you know, everyday life with people too. So, yeah, you know, it's you know, it's just not fair. Just not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, like you had mentioned, it progressed so fast. I was guiding some elk hunters out in Montana, some archery hunters for almost 10 days. And I came back and I click on YouTube and I'm looking at Joe's channel and I'm like, Joe has cancer? And then it was like, they're saying he has 2 years? They're saying he has less than a year? They're saying he has less than 6 months? All of a sudden it's like, they're saying he has 2 weeks or a couple weeks? It's like, this all played out. Like I say, it was 32 days ago that Joe woke up and said, man, my ribs hurt. What's going on? It is just baffling how fast this unfolded. It really is. But I think that if anything is just a testimony to how great the need is to financially get involved with the GoFundMe so that Molly can spend these last days that she has with him without that burden looming over their thoughts. And so encourage
No, and
everybody to support that.
yeah, no, and I thank you for, you know, doing a show like this, you know, to really, you know, give people a chance to come on and really appreciate Joe for everything that he offers and you know, will continue to offer.
Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Hey,
Sorry I
How
had
you
you
doing,
backstage
Jeff?
a little bit there. I was trying to get
That's
this
completely
balance.
fine. Yeah,
Appreciate
no
you
problem
popping
at
on.
all. No problem. Absolutely. How you doing, Nikki, Jen, Brent? How you doing, Joe? I hope you're comfortable, buddy. Love you, man. And you know, I won't take up a lot of time here, but I just, you know, I want Joe to know that, you know, listening to Joe and having Joe as a leader to me, somebody that I looked up to, somebody that I respected, somebody that was always ringing in my ear, sitting on my shoulder while I was in the woods, and kept my mind wired and heading in the right direction. And I have a lot of respect for Joe. He's a role model for young men to become a great man. He has great standards and morals, and you know, if I had to have a phrase that I think of that best suits Joe and represents his outlook on this subject is don't talk shit you can't back up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of show me the facts sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, I could have blown something out of proportion tonight. You know, I encountered a bear, and so I could go on YouTube and make it look like something it isn't. But, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Joe and many others, you know, have taught a lot of people, you know, to have a sensible mind and don't be fantastical. And I pray for both him and Molly. It's been tough around the house because I have a 10-year-old daughter who doesn't really understand his dad getting a little upset. And you know, we say grace but yeah, Joe, I pray for comfort, and I just want you to know that you've meant the world to me.
Yeah, totally agree. Well said, Jonathan. You know, it really is also a testimony to how many people just simply hearing about Joe have come to the conclusion that he's the type of person that they wanted to help, even though maybe they've never met him. And I say that because out of the $8,600 that's been raised so far on this GoFundMe, a lot of it are from secondary reaching. Jen shared it with coworkers, and people that work with her that don't even know who Joe is were going on and giving. Same with Molly, sharing it with friends of hers and coworkers. So many people that came forth and gave to this. I mean, a lot of them are giving $100. Never met him, but what they hear of people talking about him and they hear about what type of person he was, I think that's inspiring. I think it is inspiring to know that there are people like that in this world. And
Amen to that.
even if
Amen.
we lose Joe here in the next however long we have with him, it's inspiring to know that there are people out there that he's influenced and can come along and still emulate the things they've learned from him.
Yeah.
But,
I got your shirt on, Joe. Don't know if you can see it.
I wore the whiny. I wore his sweatshirt the whole time out there at camp
Right on.
on Mount St. Helens. Yep,
Right on. I got his coffee
big.
cup.
whiny big all the way.
Absolutely. Forever.
Yep. And I just had finding let me go back here. Flyby Sue was asking Jeff, are you collecting donations here? I just put the link in the chat to the GoFundMe. If you go there, you can support that there. I will say this. I mean, if anybody, I'd encourage you to use the GoFundMe, first of all. But if anybody was to donate during this show, any of the donations that I receive in here would go towards Joe and Molly. I will put it towards their GoFundMe or just send it straight to them. So, but I would encourage you to use the GoFundMe link that's in the chat right now. And let me pull up. Sean, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. How about you guys?
Well, we're hanging in there.
Hanging in.
How you doing, Sean?
Hanging in. You know.
Well, Joe is now in the chat. He says, you people are awesome. I knew he was watching from his hospital room with Molly.
You're awesome, Joe.
So tell us a little bit, Sean. You've known Joe for a long time. What are some of the things that you could share that maybe emulate or exemplify the type of person Joe was to you?
The first time I saw their YouTube channel, they were just starting. Joe and Molly were just starting out. And they had like 3 subscribers at the time. And I was like the lone person in chat. So I was sitting there, I'm commenting and stuff. And the reason I subscribed was because of the connection Joe and Molly had. It was just a play off of each other that was just like, this is why these two are married, It's just, it was perfect. Yeah. So I subscribed and eventually, I had Joe on, and Joe's one of the few people I've spent backstage until 3 a.m. with.
Yeah, right.
All of a sudden you look at the clock and you go, Joe, it's 3 a.m. All right.
Yeah.
But he was always, he would always, if you need anyone, I'll come on. And that was always nice.
He always had time for you.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't a show, if you just said, dude, I got something on my mind. You got a moment? I don't care what he was doing. He would drop it and say, shoot me a link and let's chat.
Yep. I was at a family picnic this past Saturday. And I was good not being on my phone. A lot of people were scrolling through. And it was about 6 p.m. when I said, you know what? I'll go on Facebook. And, damn it. There was the, Joe left that update. And,
Thank you, Uncle Bones.
Yeah.
Crushed. And, I got home and I started feeling guilty and selfish for how I was feeling. I sent Joe a message, thanked him for everything and being a friend, and told him that, because compared to what I'm feeling, I can't imagine what Joe and Molly were feeling.
Yeah.
I told Joe that, and Joe, this is why Joe Snyder is Joe Snyder.
Yeah.
One second, I'll find it. No, it's not selfish. It just means you're capable of love, my friend. I'm humbled if someone loves me that much. We're all really grieving ourselves when we lose a loved one, and there's nothing wrong or selfish about that. In my opinion, it honors the one who has to pass on. It just shows how much they meant to you and others who knew them. And it's still difficult to accept.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Joe Joe helped me without ever knowing. A lot of my depressions I keep private.
Yeah.
So bantering with him always cheered me up and lifted my spirits, and he was always supportive, and I just appreciate him so much for doing that. And you hit the key. I think people connected with Joe because he expressed his vulnerability.
Yeah.
You were spot on.
You bring up something that's interesting. I don't know. I think a lot of people lose this in their peripheral, that those of us who have these shows on YouTube and try to do the best we can at providing you guys with something that you'd want to watch, we do deal with a lot of stuff ourselves that you'll never really see. I mean, we're no different than anybody else that's in this chat. We're all human.
Thank you.
When it comes to depression and these things that we find ourselves tripping over in our lives, you likely will never see that on our shows. But this network of hosts that a lot of us became friends. Joe was always the one that if a blip showed up on his radar that somebody he knew was dealing with something, he would always reach out. I mean, you would get a message from him right away saying, "Hey, everything okay, bro? How you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. He was not blind to the fact that everybody hurts. Some people hide it well, some people don't. Joe was pretty open and pretty what's the word I'm looking for? He was not blind to the fact that when he had a friend that needed something, he would reach out. He didn't need to be asked to. But just trying to keep up with everything. We've got another big donation coming in. I appreciate that, Eyes.
Joe is a real people person. He loved to be around people. He loved talking to everybody. You could tell that he was a people person. I admire that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You're muted, Mickey.
I was just going to say that Joe's always good for a marathon show. If I didn't have anything to do, I could always call Joe.
I like it when he's a little sauced up.
Hell,
I like it when he gets a little sauced up.
He did an 8-hour show one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brent and I were messaging that day. Brent, he's still going. Brent would message back a couple hours later. Sean, he's still going.
Brent, 8 hours, baby. 8 hours.
Do you think you forgot my shows on tonight?
Yeah.
He's a people person, man. Yeah.
Yeah. He I loved how he always had an opinion on the subjects that we would talk about when we have a panel, but he often would kind of hold that until he understood where everybody else kind of stood on that discussion, and then he would kind of interject where he was. And I think that's what I really appreciated about him. is he wasn't somebody to argue his opinion or argue his point. He was somebody who goal one was to understand where you're at and why you think the way that you do before he starts offering what his thoughts were.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that.
that's something that we're missing in this community a lot of times is people are quick to expound on their opinions and their hypothesis and all of that. But a lot of times when we try to have these conversations, there's just too many people out there that are saying, I'm right and you're wrong. You can say what you want, but I'm right and you're wrong. Joe
Yeah,
was
right on.
never like that. He was like, let me understand what it is you're saying here, because maybe there is something I haven't considered, you know? And I think that's a high sign of intelligence, to be honest with you. It really also amazed me at, I'm not saying he was an expert on anything. We all hate that moniker, but he was somebody that knew a bit about everything. I mean, there you couldn't
Yeah.
find too many subjects that he wasn't at least able to hold his own in the conversation with, you know. And I apologize when I sound like I'm speaking in past tense, like Joe isn't here anymore. I don't mean to do that. I want people to understand that
No, he's in chat
after,
hanging out with us right now.
yeah, after speaking to him for a few hours here between the day before yesterday and today and whatnot, I am trying to get where I think Joe wants us to be, and that's understanding that he's not fighting this. I don't think he wants people to grieve, even though we will. That's human nature. I think what he wants is the peace of mind of knowing that Molly's going to be okay when he does leave. And I think like I say, the best thing that we can do for Joe is not say these things that sound just genuine, like, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. He knows that. He knows that. I think for him, the most fulfilling thing that Joe could hear coming out of our mouths is that we are appreciative of everything that he's done for this community and how profoundly he impacted so many of us, whether it be as a resource or as a friend. And that's what my hope is, that he understands that tonight. And I'm trying to keep up with the chat. I there's a lot being said, and I'm not getting it all up there, so I apologize for that. There's so many great comments. So.
Yeah, the chat was loaded with love and wonderful things to say. Like a big family.
I put in there a challenge to break the heart thingy button. So
it was flying.
break it. Oh, old lady in the woods. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much.
I met Joe over at the Whitehall Sasquatch Festival. I remember seeing him, and I think he had a walking stick with him, and he was plugging away, and he was over by near the river. And I think they had the boat out in the channel out there with the Sasquatch on it. And I think he was maybe filming it. I do believe he was filming it. And I went over and introduced myself. And I think I have that picture somewhere. I've got to get that blown up and put on the wall.
Yeah.
But, what a great guy.
Hey, Leon.
Hey, I would have come on earlier, but I wanted to. I can't come on because between Brent, Nikki, yourself, well, everybody here, and Sean weeping, I've been crying like it's right there, like
Yeah.
like
Got to get your Kleenex ready before you click the link, right?
Roll of toilet paper. It wasn't full roll, so I haven't had much. It's tragedy is what it is, right? It's I talk to Joe, and I will continue to talk to Joe every other day to the end. And I said, I ain't going anywhere. I mean, I've died 9 times, so I've worked a lot of the shit he has to process now through. But one of the things too about him, I mean, you guys have just triggered so many different things in my mind about him. But one of his posts he did was, I'm so sorry, you guys, but I have to let you know I'm going.
Yeah.
God, that is an honorable man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, and that for me, I mean, I don't have a problem crying. I think it's the most healthiest thing. And Joe and I, when we talk, when he's been in the hospital and that, we both kind of joke about, there is no crying rule here, meaning that you are allowed to cry if you have to cry. And that's one of the greatest gifts you're giving him, actually, and me, myself, is you're all crying. He needs to really feel that, you know, he has a legacy. He has offspring. He has us. And every time his insights we share with others, he lives on. And, you know, that it's kind of weird from my angle. Sorry, you guys.
It's all right.
Because when I was in the hospital last year dying, you guys were all talking about me, but I couldn't see any of it because I was dying. It wasn't until about 3 months after, when I started to get my faculties back, which are still slowly coming back, that it was interesting, because you watched a lot of shows. Nikki, stop doing that. Sorry, Joe's rules. We're allowed to cry, but you know, it was funny because when I was in the hospital after 3 months and going through all your videos when you guys were talking about me, you know, you seen shows where they talk about being at your own funeral and hearing people talk. The nice thing about Joe is he's not at his own funeral. He gets to hear this while he's alive, which is a huge gift we're giving him in doing this.
Amen to
Jeff,
that.
you're doing this as well, you know.
And yeah, that's one of the things, Liam, when I was talking to him the other day for about an hour, I realized he still had his sense of humor. I realized we talked about things that he was passionate about. You know, he was very cognitive, very expressive. It was the same Joe I've always known. You wouldn't know that he's dealing with that if you didn't see all the hospital stuff in the background when I was talking to him on FaceTime for over an hour. But the way that he would say things, like you said, he'd say, you know, I'm sorry about this, or it's like, dude, why are you apologizing? Right? I mean, but like you say, it speaks to an honorable man, you know.
Yeah. Well,
and for you, when you got out of the hospital, when people have been talking and about you and lifting you up, for you to watch all of that in retrospect, you know, after the fact, I can't imagine what that must have been like for you.
Well, it's probably
to survive it, you know, and then
I was crying the whole time, because you know when you die 9 times, it cuts through a lot of the bullshit. Joe and I talked about this too. I said the good thing about going through this stage is you don't give a shit about the bullshit. Yeah. You just can't, and you can't put up with it, and you can't deal with it. But I mean, I forgot my thoughts there. But one thing I wanted to make sure, out of everybody that I have ever interviewed in regards to their claims about Bigfoot, Molly, I'm sorry, but Joe just didn't believe that he believes that he saw a Sasquatch. I believe Joe totally, that he had an experience with something that he totally believes is being a Sasquatch. I've never seen a false in any of his story. Go ahead, Jen.
Molly did say in Paul's chat that she does believe her husband saw something. So she's turned the corner a little bit.
Well, she wants to pick up the gauntlet too, right? And that's part of the thing.
True. That is true. That's what she said. She wants to get up and fix the Bigfooty Jeep and go do the thing.
On Joe's channel.
That's awesome.
This was a long time ago, but I remember being on Joe's channel one night with Leon, and we were talking. It was lighthearted conversation, a lot of joking around and whatnot, but what also serious too. Joe was talking about his encounter, and Molly was on there, and she said, like she always would say to him, Joe, I believe that you believe that you saw Bigfoot. And I said to Molly, and I didn't, I certainly wasn't trying to make her feel bad or anything. I just was thinking out loud, I guess, kind of. I said, out of all the people that have heard my encounter, if anybody didn't believe me, I really could care less. I don't have a burden to make anybody believe. If you want to believe, then believe. If you don't. But if my wife, the one person who I'm vested in with everything that makes me human, didn't believe me, I don't know how I would be able to deal with that. And like I said, I wasn't trying to make her feel bad, but her response was, holy crap, I never really thought of it that way before. I think to her it was a kind of a lighthearted way to kind of poke. But I kind of always had that feeling like deep down, maybe that affected Joe a little bit more than what he led on to. He'd joke about it, but I think, when Joe was kind of the same way. I don't care if somebody doesn't believe me, but wait a minute, we're talking about Molly here, right? And I think that kind of opened her mind a little bit to that thinking. She realized that he saw something, whether it's what you identify as Bigfoot or not Bigfoot or whatever. He saw something and had a profound experience that has affected him the way it has. And I think she acknowledges that pretty clearly now. I mean, whether or not she wants to say, I think it was Bigfoot, I don't think that's necessary. I think it's just awesome that she can look at his experience and say he experienced something that's genuine, that actually happened to him.
Yeah.
But
Shuffle.
yeah.
Hey, I have to say my goodbyes. I'm still here with family, and we're getting ready to leave right now. But Joe, I love you. I love you. That's never going to change. And reach out to me. And you need me, just call me, dude. Call me. I've got my phone. I'm always here for you. So I love you, man. I love all you guys. You're all in my heart. And
love you too, Nikki.
Yes, Nikki. Thanks so much for joining, and safe travels as you head home here.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys later.
See you.
Later, Nikki.
Jeff, I'm gonna have to take off too. My light's gonna end up going out.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you joining us so remotely, and wherever you're at, it was a great connection. So that's awesome.
I can't believe it. I just pulled off to the side of the dirt road because I have 2 bars and I've just stayed right here. So thank you for having me, Joe. I love you like a brother, and I know I sent you an email if you got it. I mean, I'm only 3.5, 4 hours away, and I mean it. If you need anything, I've got the truck. You need to move something, or if Molly needs a hand, don't hesitate to get a hold of me. I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll be there in 3.5, 4 hours, give you a hand doing anything you need, man.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
And,
yeah, because Molly,
love all you guys.
Yeah.
And, she's gonna need help, and I'm right there. Don't hesitate to ask. All right, guys. Joe, love you, man. And, love all you guys. You guys have
all
a
right.
good
Talk to you
evening.
later, man.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I'll have to get with Alex. We've had about $350 just in donations come through Untold here, and we'll make sure that we get that I suppose YouTube takes a small cut of that, but we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it to Joe and Molly. So,
Well, if it's a fundraiser, they don't. That's the one thing.
Hopefully they. I don't know how we qualify it as that, but hopefully just the title of the show indicates that this is not this is not our beer fund here. We're raising money for it tonight, but. So the Caring Bridge site is, or not Caring Bridge, but the GoFundMe site is at 8665, and their goal is $10,000, and we have gotten enough here that we've put them over the $9,000 mark. So hopefully, like I say, as the show continues to be viewed, and the reach goes out to our podcast platform with Untold Radio, hopefully we can get them there pretty quickly. So, and I will post that GoFundMe link again here. Hold on.
Well, hopefully it's not only met, but it's exceeded.
Yeah, I agree. We should shoot for 20.
Yeah, I would agree, because honestly, when you look at what they're going to be using the money for is the final expenses, funeral, all that stuff. I can tell you right now, $10,000 is not enough to pay for all the things that you need to pay for. It just isn't. But hopefully it'll get them there. I have faith that it will. I think that there's enough people out there who, if they didn't know Joe before they tuned into this stream, they've learned enough about him to understand that even if you can only afford to give $5 or $10 to this GoFundMe, it will be for a very good cause, and it will be very much appreciated. So,
yeah. So I'm gonna have to take off. But Joe, love you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
That was quick.
So
you're back
all right,
already.
Yeah.
Take care, Brent.
Roll too quick.
All right, Brent. Thanks so much. I know
All
you are with family, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. See you later.
Okay.
Bye, Brent.
It's good to see you again, Sean.
Nice to see you, Leon. How you doing?
Oh,
Hanging in? Yeah.
Nikki and I were talking about
comments out there in the chat, Sean, about how people are missing your show.
Yeah.
Missing your show.
They're missing it.
yeah.
Let me tell you something. When you don't do it in a while, it's like, well, we'll see.
I felt the same way. I told everybody I haven't done a show here on Untold for almost 3 months, but they left the keys in the car, and I knew
turn it back on.
And I said I'd come back and do a show if I thought there was something worth doing a show on. And I talked to Doug the other night, and he said, "Dude," he says, you've got to do this show." He felt so adamantly that there were so many of us here at Untold that have been on Joe's show, or Joe's been on one of our shows, that we were not going to ignore not only what he's going through, but the need that is in place here to try to raise money so that Molly can have some peace of mind here. So
the only thing I remember that stuck out in my mind, and I don't remember which one of us said it to each other between Joe and I, but it was very dry, and Joe and I could always bust each other's chops. But one day, I think I may have been on his show or something, and I went, "Geez, watching this is like watching paint dry."
Yeah.
And just to bust his chops, I think it was me. It could have been reversed. And then Joe would come to my show and go, "Oh, I just came here to watch the paint dry, Sean." I'm like, "Oh, okay." A little zinger. Yeah. But it was always back and forth and good-hearted. And that's what I'm sarcastic too with my sense of humor. So, those are my kind of people. The kind of people they can take it and dish it out. It's great. It made for great fun.
Yeah, you know, I think that the way he looked at things, the way he responded at things, I think a lot of us could relate to how he did that. But for me, I mean, even more so, Joe was a little bit older than I was, but not much. We were both kind of kids of the same era when it came to high school and experiences and the way culture was. And but I'll tell you what, if me and Joe started talking music and 80s heavy metal and all this stuff, he was just so relatable. And I don't think that was just because I'd experienced those things too. I think he's relatable to somebody from a whole different era. It's just the way he was open and the way he communicated his life experiences. I think a lot of people felt like he's taking me on a journey. I feel like I'm walking right next to him as he's telling me this story about back when this happened. He was just really good. He's so good at that I think that people will always respect that. He says, Joe says, I can't seem to get on, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you all. Let me see here. I'm going to shoot him a link here.
Because he's in the hospital, and also that he's on the cell phone too. So
yeah. Hold on.
One thing I liked about Joe is his technique of acting humble and then blowing the shit out of all of us when it came to on Nikki's show for the games Nikki would play, and Joe would be totally
kick her ass.
and then he'd be skyrocketing ahead of everybody, and he's always, I'm not that smart. Yeah, you are, Joe.
Yeah.
I can't even get the answer out, and you've already got the answer there. Joe for hey, Jay, the game.
Yeah, no, he was
educated. Jay disappeared. Maybe he'll pop back.
I think he has his YouTube on too.
He had it on. I think he probably went to shut it off and ended up shutting this off instead.
Because we're old. Yeah, it's geriatrics ward night. Yay!
Yeah, it's awesome seeing so many people show up and chat. We've got a lot of people who. A lot of them even I don't typically see when I do a show, but to be fair, the last time I did a show, Untold was like at 2,700 followers, and now they're at 4,400 followers. So there's a whole lot of new people here that weren't even here when I was doing a show.
So put the link into chat again, Jerry. It looks like Jerry's here from Bookwa Voice.
Yeah, Jerry's in the chat.
Maybe he can jump on, Jerry, if you're by your camera too.
I know, we'd get done with the shows, and Joe and I would be sitting backstage for like 2.5, 3 hours just talking afterwards, and finally be like, "Holy crap! I need to eat something. I'm gonna."
That's out.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem for Joe right now with connection is that in the hospital, when it gets to be the evening, their bandwidth and connection and their ability to connect just goes down. There's so many people in that hospital trying to get online that to think that a camera and stuff's going to work, it might not, but we'll see. He is following along in chat, so.
Well, maybe
if he
just uses his data plan off the hospital, not the Wi-Fi.
Well, it's good to see his humor. I mean, especially when we talked about having no more dignity, when you're in the hospital. And then taking a picture of himself on his commode, you can see his butt. Ooh, hey, Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
That was funny. When I saw that, I went, "Yeah, Joe, that's what you do. You goof off, goof off. You don't care." Makes us laugh.
Jay, how you doing?
Jay is okay. Joe, how in the world? Get off your butt. We got to go find that thing, okay?
Well, I'll tell you what. You tell him for yourself, because guess who's here?
Yay!
All right.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
What's going on?
I don't know. Are you crying over on your end, Joe?
I'm
Whoa!
trying.
Whoa!
Hang on a second.
Oh,
Well,
Oh no!
Oh, I don't know. We lost the camera
oh, I'll see.
there. Well, let's see if it comes back.
Well,
hey,
Yeah,
Janet.
I knew that he was going to be wrestling with that connectability there, but he had been messaging me in chat along the side here, and he said maybe towards the end I'll come on to give everyone my personal thanks and gratitude. I really do appreciate the effort you're putting forth in this. I said, Joe, don't mention it. I'm honored to be able to do this. And he said, you're a good man and a great friend. And, that's a typical message from Joe, because Joe always let you know that he appreciated your friendship. I mean, even in casual conversations with him, a lot of times he'd say, I really appreciate you taking the time to message me. I mean, he really paid attention to that every time he messaged me. So I really appreciate that about him. And I don't know if I'm going to pop him out here. I don't know if evidently that's not working. I shot the link straight to him in Messenger for him to try clicking it there rather than out of our chat. And that seemed to have worked and brought him in, but did not withstand the low bandwidth he has there right now. So, but hopefully you can try what Jen recommended. Maybe if he can switch his phone
Turn
over
off-
to data.
Flip off the Wi-Fi for a few minutes.
Yeah, flip off the Wi-Fi, force it to data, and maybe it will work a little better. But so, Jay, I'll tell you what, buddy. If we would have been forced to put a bet down on who we were going to be raising money for final expenses, you or Joe, I would have picked you before Joe if I'm being brutally honest. But
to be brutally honest, I would have picked myself too.
I did want to say this, and I was going to say it at the beginning of the show. For those who are listening who don't know Joe, who are listening maybe on podcast, when it comes to the I'll just say hundreds of encounters that I have heard shared. If I was to put $1 million on 5 of them that I would bet are absolutely, as you heard it, genuine and real, Joe's encounter would be in those top 5.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And next to it would be yours, Jay. I've said this oftentimes, Joe's encounter, Jay's encounter, the late Kerry Arnold, his encounter. There are just certain people, the way that they tell it, and I'm not talking about hearing it once. I'm talking about hearing it told a dozen times over and over. Identical. Nothing, no red flags, no variance in the degree of emotion that's displayed and what triggers that emotion to surface when they're showing it, the body language. There is no doubt in my mind that Joe experienced exactly what he said he experienced.
That's
And
so
I know
true.
Leon feels the same way. Leon's talked to him probably more than any of us about what he experienced, and I think you feel the same way. And Joe's back. Let's see if this works.
Oh,
Yeah,
Joe.
I'm not touching nothing this time. I'm not touching a damn thing. How's it going, everybody?
It's going good.
Yeah. Hello, Jay, Mr. Fritz,
what do you say, buddy?
Jen, my sweetheart, Leon,
Hi, Joe.
Sean, paint giant over there behind Sean. Jeff, thank you for doing this, man.
It's my honor, Joe.
It was quite the surprise. And I really love all you guys for this. And everybody in chat, you guys. You know, it's hard when it's hard when you got to say goodbye to people that you love so much.
Yeah.
And I really do love all you people in chat. You guys have been great to me. You followed me. You put up with all my shit over the years, and it's hard. It's hard, but you know what? I am where I'm at, you know, and I have to accept that. I don't know how long it's gonna be. A couple weeks, few weeks, a month, but probably not much more than that. Apparently, according to what they're saying. I am actually surprised. I'm skinny as hell now, and I've been eating like a freaking rabid dog, man. I mean, my appetite hasn't gone anywhere, and I've been eating and eating and eating, but I'm just not gaining any weight anymore. So I'm not fat no more. But look, I do not suggest this kind of diet to lose weight. Definitely not. So, but you guys have been awesome to me. And I love each and every one of you, man. I love each and every one of you.
Joe, what are you able to share with any of us what you, I mean, I know with what you're dealing with and where you're at that plans are going to change day to day all the time. I mean, they can say this is what we're going to do next week and it's going to be something else a lot of time. But the goal is to get you from the hospital into a home hospice type situation where you can be at home.
Yeah.
As long as they can manage that pain level, and you know, there's a risk with your bones and whatnot with the cancer being in your bones. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're at with that?
Yeah, that's what the whole thing last night was about. Wow, thank you. Oh, no, I'm good.
And I brought our whole thing up for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My nurse just came in. They were running on, and she had to go to a totally different floor to find the apple juice.
That's love.
But she did. Oh, I'm really popular with them here because I'm not constantly pushing the little red button, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a fairly decent patient, I guess. So they all love me. And I love all of them too. They are fabulous, fabulous caregivers, man. The people here, these nurses and doctors, man, are just like, they are top notch, man. And the people that I got, the oncologists that I have, is one of the top in the country, really. Yeah, they are top notch, and they go. Of course, I'm always joking with them about stuff too, because I'm like, well, what's am I gonna do, man? I mean, you know, yes, some of it's gallows humor, but I mean, where am I gonna go other than there? You know, I mean, I gotta find some kind of gallows humor in this. Otherwise, I'm gonna sit around till my last day moping and crying. Well, I can't do that. But anyway, yeah, Jeff. What the procedures last night included a biopsy, what's called an ablation, which you already explained, which that is where they basically burn a nerve to try to relieve some pain that way. And then they did what's called a kyphoplasty, which basically is going into my spine because I got those fractured vertebrae. And what it does is they basically use medical grade concrete, and they go in there and they separate that and they push it apart, and they inject medical grade concrete in there so that relieves the pressure and the pain on the back. And that's supposed to relieve a good portion. Now, they're under no illusions that it's going to get rid of it entirely, the pain, but it should ease up on it enough to where I can at least with a walker, get out of bed and get to the bathroom, that kind of thing.
Yeah, typically, if you weren't in a situation where they felt that it was so time critical, they'd use, I've had these done before, called peak implants, where they place them between your vertebrae. They're like a little plastic ring with a sponge in it that has bone cells that over like a 6-month period, it grows into solid bone.
Yeah.
But you don't have 6 months to wait for this to grow, right? So what they're using, like you say, this medical grade concrete to relieve that pressure. I think it's important that we all understand that really the number one goal of these doctors isn't to try to make something go away when it comes to cancer. It's not going to. What it is pain management and getting you to where you can at least feel comfortable until you reach the point to where
I got it. Yes.
Yeah.
You can say it, man. I mean, it's reality.
Well, listen,
it's reality.
Maybe if I was talking about somebody who I didn't feel was a friend and a brother, I could say it. It's harder to say it when it's you. I'm being honest there.
I know, man.
I just have wrestled with that since in this last month. I wanted, the first time when I was going to call you, I wanted to talk to you so badly, and yet there was part of me that felt like there's not a freaking word that I can tell you that's going to lift you up or be able to let you feel what I'm feeling. And I didn't know what to say, and I wrestled with that, and I think a lot of people do, but
I get that.
it's easier to have the conversation when you are looking at this and saying, look, I accept where I'm at here. It's okay to say this. It's okay to talk about this. I'm not in denial. I'm not losing my focus on what's important to me. You're still focused on Molly and these realistic needs and these things that need to be addressed for you to be able to be comfortable leaving this world. And
exactly.
I think it's just awesome that we're able to be here and play a small part in that. So.
I appreciate that too, man. And it's like, I have my ups and downs. I mean, there are times where this, I have this little, like, dude, just do what everybody says and fight. Well, there's not a whole lot of fighting I can do. Now, what I can say I'm going to do is I'm going to take every day as it comes. It's like right now, look, honestly, truth be told, I don't know whether I'm going to go to sleep tonight and then wake up tomorrow morning or not.
Yeah.
But when I do open my eyes in the morning, if I do open them up, I realize, hey, man, I got another day. I've got another day. Let's see what happens today. Let's see where I'm at today. Where's my pain level at today? Because, look, when it comes down to it, now they're talking about if this biopsy, the ablation and the kyphoplasty is somewhat successful in relieving a lot of this pain, that can get me back and forth to some treatments possibly that, again, they're not going to stop me from dying, but they could prolong my life a little bit longer than a few weeks.
And they might alleviate that pain level that you would deal with during that time.
Right. And so I might get 6 months or, out of this instead of a few weeks. Now, that depends on how, that pain level. You're right. Because if my quality of life sucks, then I'm going to be like, for me, the decision, and I've already talked to Molly about this, for me, the decision is going to be like, just freaking let me go, man. Just put me under with enough drugs that I don't realize what's going on and just let me go because I don't want to live with that kind of pain.
Yeah.
And if that pain comes back like it was, I that's no quality of life, man. That's no quality of life.
That excruciating. It's pretty hard to be able to. I think that you're the type of person, Joe, that even when things are really bad, you're able to find some joy that exists around you. But it is very difficult to do that when you are in that high of a level of pain. So,
Yeah.
Mogs, welcome to the
Hey, Mugs.
show. Appreciate you
Joe.
popping in.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I was gonna come on sooner, and Stevie B just got into a car accident.
Oh,
Oh
She's,
my
no.
goodness.
no, she's okay. She's okay. It wasn't as bad as she thought it was.
Oh.
She just had to tie up the muffler, and she's on her way home. But
Oh, thank God she didn't get hurt.
no, she's fine.
Okay.
But it was a hit and run, but she's on her way home. So
Assholes.
Well, good. We're glad she's all right.
yeah, I was about to come on. I was listening on my phone, and the phone rang. It was her, and I had to, I was getting ready to leave, and she says, "No, the truck is drivable." So
And I'm sorry I didn't see you sitting there, Jerry. Hello, Jerry.
Hello,
Yeah,
Joe.
Jerry, I'm sorry.
It's
I was
good to
gonna
see you,
welcome
my friend.
too.
Thanks for the invite. I'm like a vampire. I don't come in unless I'm invited. But I just wanted to say to you, Joe, and to the other good people here, I have never met a more compassionate being in my life. Jeff was saying that you'll never know how much you affected people's lives or their day-to-day existence because of a comment you made or a statement you made or something that you just put out there in an email or a one-liner. And to me, I've always found you compassionate, and that's pretty damn hard to find in Sasquatch research, somebody who's compassionate. You got the perfect armor because you have no ego. Nobody can get to you because you have no ego to defend. You're all curiosity, man. You're just curiosity, and you're not going to go to war over anything. You're just going to love people and hope they love you in return. And I just want you to know, Bud, you are loved. You are loved. And Jeff, I want to thank you for getting this all together tonight.
Yeah, no, like I told Joe earlier, I'm honored to be able to do something like this for them. The moment that I returned home and realized what Joe was dealing with, I immediately wanted to try to help him and do something. And quite honestly, when you look at the position that he is in,
yeah.
I was stumbling over what would that be? What would that look like? But after talking to him the other day for over an hour, it really became apparent to me that his biggest concern has very little to do with his health. It has to do with Molly and how she's going to deal with this.
Yes.
And approaching this in a way where maybe we could unburden them from the financial thing, that the part that they're going to look at is probably the one thing that maybe we could play a part in. So,
and I'll tell you what, the thing I would like to ask you guys also, aside from that, because you know how important it has been for me to find answers. I would appreciate you guys, since Molly, and you could have knocked me over with a feather the other day when she announced to me that, because I didn't get to see Steve's show when it was airing. When she announced to me that in the chat she told everybody that she was going to honor my legacy by taking up my mantle, and that she wanted to actually keep the Jeep and keep it exactly the way it is. Of course, fix little stuff on it that needs to be fixed, of course. And that she was going to take up my mantle, because she thought it was important that people know that my husband saw damn Bigfoot in the woods. He's not lying about that.
Yeah.
And she's taken up that mantle, and I would appreciate you guys taking her under your wing. And please show her all the ropes. You know, just be with her, man. Give her the support she needs in that endeavor, the same as you have been supporting me.
Well, you know, one thing that I noticed, Joe, and I still notice it as I watch YouTube and watch where that has gone over the last year, is when Carrie Arnold passed away, a lot of people came around his wife and lifted her up and honored her and nurtured her and supported her. And to this day, they still do.
Yeah.
And I think Molly can expect the same treatment here.
Yeah. That's what I told her. I said, honey, if you really mean that, and she wouldn't say that to me if she didn't really mean it. But I said, honey, if you really mean that, I said, you're going to have so much support from Leon and Jeff and Steve Coles and all the people that I'm involved with, everybody. You're going to have so much support from them. I hope you have a blast at the festivals and the conferences if you go to them. Now, everybody knows I wasn't a big conference guy, mostly because, I mean, there's so many of them that I couldn't really afford to go to like every single one of them. But I did enjoy the ones I could get to in New York. And yeah, she wants to do that. She's planning on like going to Whitehall and going to these different various ones, man, and putting it out there, you know, that, hey, my husband was doing this, now I'm doing it. Bigfoot is real, and this is why this is what I can show you to tell you why I believe that he believed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we'll do a final.
That hurts a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, we'll do a bit of we'll do a jab for you after if she runs into a Sasquatch. Well, I'll say to her, well, Molly, we all believe that you believe that you saw.
I think if she's gonna keep the Jeep, Joe, we need to get a graphic made for the back window that says, I believe that you all believe.
Right.
You know what I believe for the first time in 30 years? There just might be a Sasquatch community.
Well,
there just might be a Bigfoot community
with
lots of good people in it.
Yeah. That's what I liked about Steve's show was when he was going on, somebody was talking to him about, well, there's no such thing as community. And Steve was saying, yeah, there is a community. There's a different community, though. Our communities are different. I mean, we've been through a lot of shit, you guys. A lot of shit. A lot of our own personal shit and all that kind of stuff. But we seem to be able to somehow negotiate through the shit instead of just be vindictive towards each other, which is a great... That's because of your personalities. It's not because of one individual. It's because of the soil or the landscape we're trying to find out here. And I think, you know, that's a testament to you as well, Joe, is your personality dealing with people is rubbing off on our abilities. Well, each of our, that personality style of, you know, just trying to be fair, real, honest, and then trying to negotiate the bullshit. You know, it's like, oh my God, like.
I think you're right on with that, Leon, in that, you know, with the way things are in this world today, it takes something awfully important and impactful for people to be able to set aside their differences and meet on common ground and share an emotion. And it just doesn't happen that often anymore. And the fact that it doesn't matter if you believe this or that, or you think it looks like this or that, or you think the origin is this or that, none of that matters tonight. What matters tonight is we have a whole community who can say, I see something valuable enough here that I don't care what our differences are. This supersedes that.
Yep.
And
well said. Well said.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Joseph, lot of these people wouldn't even know me if it wasn't for you. And you know what I'm talking about because you was the first show I ever spoke about Bigfoot on.
Oh yeah, Jay. When you were telling me, and look, man, I was actually pretty honored by you that you would actually choose my podcast.
Yeah.
Be the first one to actually come out and tell people about it. I thought that took a lot of bravery, took a lot of courage to do that, and I really appreciated that, giving me that opportunity to go, hey, here's another guy right here that has had this encounter when he was a youngin', and yeah, when I can go, I flat out believe every single word he's saying now, and I found that I was very honored the fact that you would choose to be on my show to actually tell everybody for the first time.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You made me very comfortable. I came on several of your shows. I didn't come on, but I listened to several of them. And you're a very intelligent man too. But a lot of people don't realize how well spoken and you're very intelligent. And you made it easy for me you actually made it easy for me to come on and
I'm glad I was able to, Jay.
Yeah.
I really, really am glad that I was able to. Because I thought it was important that people hear your encounter. Now, everybody in chat, everybody that's on this panel right here, they know what my deal is. Do I believe every single encounter I've ever heard? No. Are there plenty of credible encounters that I have heard? Yes. And those ones that I do find incredibly credible, those ones that I find, I think those are important to get out there. Yeah, I'm not going to put out the bullshit ones of, oh, I had a Sasquatch that I was in the woods and he came tap dancing up in some tap shoes and he grabbed my barbecue and he ran off into the woods, jumped on his unicorn and rode away and hit me with mind speak. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Put that in a book with some illustrations. You got a great kids book right there. But yeah, it was important for me, and I appreciate that, Jay. I'm so glad you had that confidence in me.
But if I can just say this,
Hey, Dan.
Joe.
Greetings from South Carolina.
Carolina.
Hey, Joe, how you doing, buddy?
All right, Danny. What do you say, Jerry?
I was saying if I could just
doing?
say this, Joe, there's a lot more to you than there is Sasquatch. You're a well-read individual. You're a studious individual. And one of the most interesting and the thing about you've got this gift of being able to do a one-man monologue stream of consciousness for 30 or 40 or 50, however long it takes, minutes. I don't know how many to your channel because of the subject tonight. And so just get comfortable in my chair and then you say, yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about this instead. Look at Jen. She can identify with that.
Absolutely. Poor Jen.
And one of the best times I ever had on your show was listening to you and Thomas Steenberg talking about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys knew the names, the dates.
That Ripper show about killed me.
Pardon?
All right.
That Ripper show, man. Is like, here, go buy this book. Okay, I went and found it at a used bookstore. I found the book and played page through the book. Then he's like, yeah, well, we're gonna use this too. And I'm like, ah.
I bought the book too. Yeah.
There were plenty of times I would get in touch with Jen a couple of hours or an hour before the show, after already telling her, hey, we're gonna cover this. And then I would get in contact with her and be like, okay, so what'd you manage to find out? It's like, I didn't do any research. How about you? What did you do? I mean, I looked up on Google for about 5 minutes, you know.
Yeah, I just spent 2 weeks putting stuff together, and then Joe'd be like, all right, I pulled up these articles. Let's go. I'm like, okay.
Let's hard charge on into it. Screw it.
Joe, I'm going to step out of the room now and give somebody else a chance to come in and talk to you. But I just want to tell you I love you very much.
Right back
And
at you.
I walk away with one thing for the rest of my life. Everybody say it with me. Don't sweat the petty stuff. And don't pet the sweaty stuff.
Good one, Jerry. Good one.
Thank you so much,
And
Jerry, for
take
joining
care.
us.
Thank you, my
Thank
brother.
you.
Hi, Jerry.
Jerry's a great guy. Appreciate him taking the time to come on tonight.
I actually say that a lot at work, Joe. I use that phrase that that made you so famous. I think it's funny every time I hear it, and I think it's funny every time I say it. I can't tell you how much I didn't know you were so sick. We had this thing in Mount St. Helens here recently. I wish you could have come. I wish you could have been a part of that. Jen was there. It was a lot of fun. But I just want you to know that your show was one of my favorites that I ever was on. I've appreciated your Rasta. I had to search and find out what that meant, and then I realized what that was. I think that's just amazing how you put that together. So, but yeah, I just I love you, man. I really do. I'm still pulling for you. It's not the end yet. So.
Well, not until the day I draw my final breath, and when that happens, it happens. It could be, like I said, I don't know. I have to go day by day, right, man? I mean, it could be tonight, it could be tomorrow night, it could be 3 weeks from now.
Well, Joe, what's awesome is that you have your sense of humor and your passion, everything going right now, and it's all working. And, if we can get these funds raised and get them available to you and Molly, there's a lot of decisions that involve your final days that you're able to be a part of. It's not like you can't communicate what you want to communicate. I think it'd be awesome if you designed a tombstone that had freaking Rasta on it. Has anybody ever put a Sasquatch on a tombstone before? I wonder,
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. And Molly said that she was going to do this because I had mentioned it. And she said, yeah, I'm going to do that. Of course, I'm going to be cremated. And what she's going to do is keep some of the ashes for herself. And then the rest of them she's going to take up to where I saw Rasta. And she's going to spread my ashes up there.
I have seen so many interesting things done
That's
with people's
exactly
ashes.
the right thing to do.
I had a friend of mine who was a fellow hunting guide who passed away and had his ashes loaded into 100 shotgun shells. And the opening morning of duck season every year, his friends launch him out over the pond.
Wow.
Year after year. I've seen another guy who was a fishing guide had custom made crankbait lures that had a little bit of his ashes inside of it. They're clear and you could see it. So when you go and use that lure, you're taking your buddy fishing, so to speak. I mean, it's just crazy what some people do. But I think the idea of being able to honor a place that was important to you, which is for you, it's where your sighting was, is really a neat deal. Maybe someplace inconspicuous where people don't see it, you could put a little, something flush on the earth there to where it has your initials or something with message that she could visit,
Yeah, I can't say that that it's so remote that nobody would ever come across it because it's not. I mean, there are chances that somebody walking through there or hunting some year might come across something like that, but I think that they would think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Hey, uh, my name and whatever date of birth, date of death. Saw Bigfoot in this spot, August. Um,
I
well,
think that would be an amazing thing, like a kind of a geocache, so to speak.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
to be able to share the coordinates wherever you
Right.
wanted, wherever she wanted to, wherever we wanted to. You could share those coordinates, and people could go there and remotely find this one little spot in the ground that says, "This is where Joe Snyder had his encounter." I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But-
And then have a little case that when they opened it up, a scroll and said, "Look over your shoulder." It's terrifying. Dan, did you want to say something here? I know we're chatting up quite a storm here.
Yeah.
Hey Dan, how are you?
How's
I
everybody doing?
apologize for.
No, it's all good, man.
Danny.
Well, it's Joe's night, and I could listen to Joe talk endlessly all night long if we got all night. Hey, Joe, I want you to know, brother, from the heart, man, I really love you, man, like a brother.
Right back at you, man. Right back
And,
at you.
and while I got everybody's attention and people's actually listening to me, let me spin out some yarns for you for about 5 minutes before I go away and get really drunk. Because I'm going to get really drunk tonight. I've been going now for about 2 hours. I had to get brave to come on here and address the nation of Bigfoot community. It's kind of like making me nervous. My hair is standing up a little bit on end to end because, I'm just no country boy. I ain't like all y'all city folks living in New York City and all that. But in my younger days, I was 11 years old. I was out in the woods taking pictures, wanting to be a nature photographer like my mom. And I'm taking pictures of the birds and the ducks and the little squirrels, because that's what nature photographers do. And I looked up on a hill and I saw, and I know the Bigfoot community is going to hate me for saying this because everybody wants to think all Bigfoots are nice and gentle and Bigfoot's all lovey-dovey and Bigfoot want to give you some gifts and shit. But let me tell you, I saw 110% what you Halloween guys would call a fucking monster standing on a hill looking at me. It was big and it was hairy and it was evil. It wasn't no good guy Bigfoot. This was a mean mother. It looked at me and it growled and it went and it scared me so bad I wet myself. I was 11 years old. I run home crying and told people about it. And the biggest mistake I ever made in my life was telling people at school about it. I was tormented. I was the boy who saw Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You saw something that don't exist, boy. You crazy. Yeah. And then the funny part was my grandpa believed me. He really did.
Yeah, maybe grandpa saw one.
Because he had seen it too when he was a kid. And he knew about it. And on top of that, he was the chief of police. So don't think that Bigfoot don't exist because he does. I'm not a believer. I'm like Joe. I'm a knower. And I spent the next 40-something years of my life running around the woods looking for Bigfoot. When I discovered YouTube, I started making videos about Bigfoot and putting them on YouTube. I actually had action right here in the area I live in. Something was stealing my trash and I found big footprints. I put them videos up. Check them out. That's when I first started. And I'm all into Bigfoot. And then I discovered Moggs's channel. And Moggs let me come on and talk to people. And I thought that was real cool. That was the first channel I ever really went on and talked to anybody, was that and Blue Line Bigfoot. And that's where I met Joe. I met Joe and Nikki over there. And I want you to know there's two people on YouTube who changed Daily Dan's life. And that's Joe sitting over there. And that's that girl, Nikki, that was on earlier. I wish she was on now where I could tell her. You two changed my life because y'all took time with me. You talked to me. You taught me about being a little more skeptical. And that's something I owe you for, Joe. I'm going to owe you for the rest of my life for being skeptical because I started questioning stuff. And then I showed you that cool picture that farmer took, and you and Nikki took it all apart and told me I was an idiot and it was fake. And I went and confronted the guy, and that's how I wound up in jail when I whooped his son's ass. Because you shouldn't take a video or a picture and send it to Daily Dan unless you want that ass whooped. Because I take it seriously. Let me point that out to you. Thank you, Joe. You got me locked up. Okay. So for 46 years, I'm out looking for Bigfoot again because I want to prove it exists with my little stupid cameras for YouTube. And I'm watching your show one night, and the funniest thing about that is your girl Molly. Is she in the room? Hey, Molly. Molly, if you're around, Molly, thank you, Molly. Because Molly starts talking about Bigfoot's damn penis. Yeah. Bigfoot's penis. How big is Bigfoot's penis, Joe? Because Molly talks about it every show. And Bigfoot penis got on my mind. So 46 years later, when I'm walking through the woods on a Bigfoot investigation where people saw Bigfoot fucking an hour ago, and I'm going to get me some video, and I'm thinking I've got it this time. The 5 minutes that the camera was off, Joe, in between videos, because, I try to keep a camera running the whole time I'm in the woods, but I ended the video. I smoked a cigar. I'm trying to wait for a few minutes to start the next video, and there it goes. I see the big, long, giant, 8 foot tall, hairy man again. After 46 years, I see it. And Molly, thank you so much. Because instead of starting the camera and filming Bigfoot and getting him on camera for the world to see the next Patterson Gimlin film, Joe, I checked out Bigfoot's junk. I had to see how big his damn penis was for Molly. By the way, Molly, it's huge. It's really huge. And I started the camera, and all I got was a blur going through the woods. So Dan, and you changed my life forever. And Joe, no matter what happens, brother, I do love you, man.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned, Dan, I think is worth circling back on, and it's not Bigfoot penis, but it is when you had that experience at 11 and you went and shared it and you felt like, boy, I don't know if they really believe me, but then you felt like your grandfather believed you, like maybe he had.
No, he told me his story, He told me about when he saw it when he was a kid. And this is the police, He went with me in the woods with guns, checking out the scene. We found footprints. It was a thing. I made a video about it. You can see that on YouTube.
Well, I think the thing to note there is that this is something that we hear a lot in encounters. We heard it in Jay's encounter. When Jay got back and thought, nobody's going to believe me. And his mom looked at him and said, you saw it. I think that peace of mind that comes over somebody when they realize that somebody gets it, that somebody's going to believe them, that they're not going to be isolated and in doubt, I think is so important. And I think that that's what people find when they visit a channel like Joe's over the years and hear him talk about his encounter. Some of those people didn't have Dan's grandpa or Joe's mom or Jay's mom. What they're finding is Joe. What they're finding is Jay. What they're finding is online somebody who's saying, you're not crazy, dude. I know what happened to you. I get it. I was there. And I think that that's just so important, that because we see it so many times in encounters, like, and you just showed us one more time, Dan, how you had an experience and thought, who's going to believe this? And here's your grandfather saying, I believe you.
You got to understand, in my frame of mind, Bigfoot wasn't real as an 11-year-old kid. Bigfoot was something I saw on TV when I watched Bigfoot and Wild Boy. Bigfoot was something the $6 Million Man thought. Bigfoot was the Legend of Boggy Creek, that horror movie that wasn't real. It was a horror movie in my mind. I didn't know the damn thing was a documentary at the time. I thought it was just another horror movie, like The Thing with Two Heads. So to me, Bigfoot was mythical. It wasn't real. It didn't have nothing to do with reality. till I saw it. That's when things changed, and I realized, hey, these things are real. And I live in South Carolina, not Washington. Why in the hell is this thing out here? And it took me a long time to realize that in Kentucky, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, you get lots of Bigfoot sightings all up and down the East Coast.
Yeah.
Right into Long
Jay,
Island, where my friend Mike actually talks to him. You might want to check him out.
Jay, you wanted to comment. Well, you're on mute, Jay.
I've been working outside all day long, but I wouldn't have missed this for the world. I'm the old man's give out, okay? Joe, got one word to say before I leave here. Respect, brother. Love you. Good night.
Thank you, man.
Hey, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, like to kill me. I've gone more than 30 minutes now without actually smoking. So
It would do you good to go the rest of your life without actually smoking.
Yeah, right.
well, I'm one of them people. I don't smoke cigarettes. I smoke cigars, but I don't really inhale them that much. But it's become a nervous habit to hold one.
Yeah.
So if I'm not smoking, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Well, smoking
folks,
something.
I gotta tell you, I appreciate this really. Drugs are kicking in.
I know the feeling, Joe.
So I gotta bow out.
More than normal, you're saying, right? More
more than normal. That's right. And again, like I said, I love you folks. I love you. That's all. I can't stress it enough. I appreciate all of you being in my life, following my journey right up until the end. And I hope that sometime in the future, when you guys think about me, you think about me with kindness.
Yeah.
That's all I ask. And other than that, man, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet.
But Joe, before you go, there's one thing you should check on. Get Molly to do this. You can go to YouTube and they will replace channels that get lost where you accidentally delete them because they're all saved on a giant server somewhere. Please do what you can to get your former channel, all your great videos put back up on YouTube, please.
I'll cover that. I'll cover that. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Joe. I will be talking to you tomorrow, my friend.
Yeah, same. Yep.
Yeah, we'll bug you.
Sleep well, my friend.
Yeah, I want to say to you guys, I appreciate you so much for joining us and being a part of this. Also, all the others that popped on and had to take off, Brent and everybody. I think that we could have, this is actually a show that I could do for 12 hours and keep putting the link up and people would
yeah, that's what you should
on.
do, man. You should make it a marathon.
Well, I'm not going to, but I'm saying
No,
that
you're
there
not.
would not be a
Don't
shortage
make
of people to come on and honor Joe and talk about how he has been an impact in their life. They really
Well, here's
wouldn't
the
be.
thing. My wife and I were talking. I had just for some reason the notification came up well into the show, and I turned it on and I sent Jen a message saying, hey, I can't seem to get a hold of Jeff and all that because I'd like to be a part of this, but
Yeah.
we were talking as we were watching a little bit of it, how much we take care of each other in this small group of truth seekers, as opposed to all the famous people who couldn't give a shit about anyone but themselves or the immediate group they're a part of. They're all scumbags, in my opinion, all of them. And I'm so glad to see Sean right now. I can't even tell you. I've actually asked about Sean more than once because I haven't seen him in a while.
A few of us, yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that you're really touching on, Jay, is the genuine character of people. I think about my business life and my career in real estate investment and development. I've got all these people that I've worked with face to face that I respect, and I think they respect me, But when I look at who are some of the most, if I had to make a list of the most genuine people that I know, the ones that convey their feelings, can build value in something, and will always be there if you need them. Half of those people don't come from my real life. They come from my friends group in this community that we have. And I think that's one of the things that you've hit right on the head there, Jay, is that we have, and it's not just us here in the channel hosts and those, that dozen, 15 of us. It runs throughout our chats. I mean, on any of our shows, people are on there saying, oh, you could come on there and say, oh, I had to take my dog to the vet today. You got 5 people genuinely caring about what you're going through, like, is it going to be okay? What's wrong? And we see that over and over in these chats on our channels, that people genuinely care about each other. And I'll be honest with you, I see it almost more here than I see it in real life in some of the people that I walk amongst every day.
I don't know what my life would be like right now if I hadn't had Leon. If I hadn't met Leon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm in a good place now, but the last time I told my story, I swore I'd never do it again because I finally broke down. And
I know if I had never seen Leon, I'd had a whole lot less headaches.
I know if I never would have seen Leon, I would have had to pay some other therapist about $25,000 by now. So.
Guys, stop it.
And then,
I think
meeting Jen and being around Jen, literally physically being in the same space. What an amazing, wonderful woman. I mean, she's incredibly awesome. And I felt her magic. I felt her whole era. Her and Nikki were phenomenal. All these people that were in that camp, that's going to live. I'll live that for the rest of my life. So grateful to have had these people in my camp.
Well, I was happy to be there. I had a blast. I really did.
Yep.
Yeah, and Sean, there's a lot of us, even though you haven't been online, you're definitely on a lot of our minds.
Yeah.
You know that, Jen?
If you're by yourself,
I'm gonna leave. I gotta go drink a lot more vodka and do a whole bunch of drugs.
Dan, we appreciate you taking the time.
Molly really should continue on and do Joe's show in his honor.
I think that if she was to choose to do that, there's enough of us that would take turns coming on and co-hosting with her from week to maybe 1 week Jay could come on, 1 week Leon, just to kind of get her feet under, get her to where she's comfortable doing it.
I'll say this: if you do it, you can actually get me and all my wisdom and talent to actually come on your show once in a while. There you go. I would actually do that in Joe's honor. And I don't go on too many shows. Ask anybody. This is only the 3rd time I've been on anything but my own show in a while. Well, and by the way, Jeff, you need to get off your lazy ass and start doing your show again too.
Well, I've been told that, but
yeah, I bet you have. I bet you have a lot of people.
I appreciate you coming on, Dan, and
just because I don't comment in the chat don't mean I'm not watching, but that's probably because you don't give me a mod like you should, because I'm the best moderator there on YouTube.
On my channel, I'll give damn near anybody a mod. The Untold channel here, I don't have control over that. In fact, I believe that Doug, I'm the only one he's given a wrench to. Like, I pop on to some of these other shows in Untold. I'm the only wrench. I think I'm the only wrench there is. I feel bad because I don't.
They're trying to get a wrench on Untold Radio or the Jimmy Church show or Spaced Out Radio is like trying to win the freaking lottery.
Well, I like tonight. I thought, you know what? I'd love to give Jen a wrench because I need help putting up all these links and stuff. I would have loved to put everybody's channel link up that came on tonight. I can't do that by myself, So
if you want a good mod, you got to hire me because I'm the link master, the troll slayer. I take care of business in the chat, and I don't mind kicking somebody out for being an idiot. So there you go.
Ever heard of Raptor?
Somebody's looking for the link.
Anyway, it's just been great being on, and Joe, I love you. I got to go drink some vodka and be sad and stuff.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, Dan.
Oh, man. Yeah, if you want me on your show one day, let me know, man. I'll come tell some stories about my stuff on your show.
Well, we might do that. I mean, we might have to do that.
Just let me know, man.
All right, buddy.
All right, peace out, guys.
You bet.
Yeah, you can ask Jen.
Whoa.
And you can ask Nikki.
Whoa,
We
I
talked
don't
a
know
lot
how I
about
did
Sean.
that.
We were worried about. I personally was worried about Sean because I felt like he was part of my life there for a long time, and sometimes you can lose connections like that. I felt like I did a little bit with Leon too, but the thing was, just because we don't talk every day doesn't mean you're not in my heart or you're not in my mind, and that's the difference between this group and those groups that get paid to go talk on all these things and get nowhere. It's one thing now having Thomas Steenberg in my camp was the most phenomenal, honorable thing I've ever had happen to me in my life. And to hear him say it, and he spoke the truth. The difference between now and several years ago was the symposiums were now and then. Now they're once a month.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. I mean, you've gotten to the point where people are just insensitive to the subject. It's become a religion. It's crazy how
I've mentioned that a lot when talking about different conferences. You see a lot of the same individuals at all these different conferences given the same kind of canned presentation, and in my mind, some of the most impactful moments you'll experience, and probably some of the most resourceful moments when it comes to learning and sharing, ends up in these experiences we have outdoors with each other. I've said over and over, we're all the professor and the student. There is no university giving master's degrees in Bigfootology. We learn from each other and we teach each other.
That's right.
To be able to go out with people that you respect and relate to and connect with and spend a few days out in a remote area, it is so resourceful. You aren't going to go on a stream somewhere for an hour and soak that up. It ain't going to happen, So.
And I think it's okay for us to take time away, because you need that time away. You have to recalibrate yourself, because it gets very frustrating and toxic. And that's why I like Joe is, you got to give yourself new permissions, because you do feel obligated, because you do have people following you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're hoping that they'll be gracious enough to understand that you just need some space because you're recalibrating. And especially if you just can't handle some of the craziness that's out there.
Well, Joe, tongue in cheek, I kind of teased Joe a lot about that. I mean, he kind of, that was his MO. About every 4 to 6 months, Joe would say, screw all this crap. I'm done. I'm not coming back. And
5 shows in 1 week.
3 days later, he'd have a show. And, it's just, he just needed that moment to say, let me hit the pause button and breathe, But
I need to have supper at 7:00 my time, and I'm getting, and my meds aren't kicking in, but my stomach certainly is. So this is a great idea.
I appreciate all you guys coming on. Leon, you have been not only as testified here by all of us, that's a resource to be able to use as a sounding board, to use as a moment to get our footing maybe and understand the things that we are experiencing. But you've been doing that for Joe, not only for a few years, but especially as of late. And I never had any intention of talking about religion and faith and all that. I didn't want that to be a part of this conversation. I will say this. A year ago, when Joe's best friend, since he was a kid, passed away, he really was broken with that. And I remember talking to him for hours upon hours all night long while he was sitting out by the campfire in tears, saying, I just feel like this is, I'm never going to get to see him again. I'm never going to get to hear him again. I'm never going to get to talk with him again. And, you know, I get where Joe looks at his health condition and says, there's nothing I can do to change this. I can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which gets filled first. It isn't going to change this. He's accepting this. But that doesn't make it easy to accept how you process it and all the emotion that goes into that. And Leon, I know you've been a resource for Joe and helping him through that. And I am so appreciative that he has somebody like you to talk to about that kind of stuff. So.
Well, it goes back to you guys. I'm gonna Craig, and at the end of the show, like I sobbed like a little baby at the beginning. But you know, the whole line for me since day one, 7 years, is build a community that educates themselves about bettering themselves. We have all brushed into the toxicity of the environment, which has definitely affected us, and we've had to work through it, and it's hurt us. People have hurt us. People misunderstood us. But, you know, as much as I appreciate the compliments, I don't get it without you. I don't get to be what I get to be without knowing that I can be safe to be vulnerable with you guys. And I hope that's the biggest thing that we can extend to each other is I do not have the fucking answers in life. Life is very complicated. Yeah. And like Joe, especially when you're going, you know, the difference between Joe's situation and my situation was I just dropped dead. I didn't have 60 days to think about I'm going to drop dead.
Yeah.
And so he's crunching a whole 60 years of his life experience into 60 days of trying to, you know, get some meaning. And what you're always looking for two things when a person comes back to themselves. They catch themselves dancing and they catch themselves laughing. And when I seen Joe's poster of him on that commode with his ass hanging out, looking at the camera, reminds me of when I was in the hospital and they put me on that sling, my belly's out, you know, and I'm above my bed and I got this goofy look in my face. That's levity. That's about, look, life is shitty, but I don't have to be miserable. If I'm going to go and have, you know, impact those around me that are the closest, you know, even if they're nurses and stuff. And I appreciate that about Joey. He's always been solidly real. It's been awkwardly uncomfortable, as you guys said.
And I really believe that the biggest way we can help Joe once we've got this financial burden knocked over is to communicate to him that his life has purpose. That it not only had purpose, but it will continue to have purpose as people see what the mark that he's left here in this community, and will always continue to be a resource with that, especially if Molly continues that channel. I know that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if I'm still alive, if I'm still doing a show, I will be reverting back and referring to something Joe said. I'll say, I remember a time when my friend Joe Snyder said this or did this. That mark is always going to be there. But I think the biggest inspiration we can be to Joe and the most comfort we can bring to him would be, I'd encourage people to message him. If you can go to on Facebook, the Hominin X Inquiry, or you can find him, Joseph Snyder, on Facebook, and send him a message and let him know how important he was and how important he always will be.
And don't message him with, you know what you need to do, Joe? This is a standing joke for Joe and I. You need to get a coffee cola, a coffee enema done. And it's like, don't send him that text. He doesn't need a coffee enema. But the other thing, Jeff, what you did tonight is what is the best gift we could have gave Joe. Imagine that, you guys. I'm going to repeat it. Is imagine you're passing on. You have
This
a
one's
group of
backstage,
people
Yeah.
from around North America. Not just his neighborhood, but from around North America. I'm in British Columbia, Canada. It can't get any farther from New York than that, Well, I could, but that what we did was help him understand you're not alone, because it's your biggest fear, right?
Yeah.
Will I have legacy? Well, you've got legacy in us because you've imparted it into us. It's hard for you to, if a person has a good character, it's hard for you not to impart that good character, those ideas that help that good character into others, because it's good stuff. And I think it's a huge gift that you provided tonight, not just for Joe, but also for us, so we can cry and I can look like a little savage baby.
We've got Finding the Trackway is here on audio. Hey, Trackway, how are
When
you?
I was talking to
Hey,
Joe
how you
online,
doing?
I was crying when I was just typing. So it's hard to talk to somebody and not cry. So
yeah. Well, this is the size of the toilet paper roll now. So
Trackway, how are you doing?
Oh, okay. I didn't know you could hear me.
Yeah, I've got you here on audio, so just wanted to pop you in before we end the show and give you an opportunity to share some thoughts about how Joe's been an impact on you. And
Well, first I want to say, Jeff, good job, man. And
yeah, totally.
And Joe. Joe had a big impact on me, and he's the one that got me out there and got me looking. And him and Sean and Nikki were the first people I talked to. And yeah, just wanted to say that he was a big influence. And growing up, I was in a family of guitar players, and we weren't allowed as kids to talk when any of the great guitar players were playing, like Chet Atkins or yeah, or and when Joe's show came on, I became my parents and was like, no, nobody talk, show's on. And yeah, I never missed a show, and I just wanted to say I'll say thanks, Joe.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was difficult not to watch the damn show, because if you weren't interested in his topic, you were interested in his personality.
I was gonna say, have you ever seen a thumbnail of a show he's gonna do, and the topic led you to not watch it? I don't know that that's ever happened.
No, you click it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Joe was really funny. He was a funny guy.
Nobody does a better Obi-Wan Kenobi than Joe.
I love Obi-Wan.
I think Molly should mount Wolfie in the background next to Rasta and Gary.
And I think this is a great testimony here, because this is what I was talking about earlier. Ristol says, never had a chance to meet, talk, or text to Joe, but have always been a fan. You know how many people fall into that category, and Joe is completely unaware of each of them, but they're there. A lot of people appreciate your, he says, our thoughts and prayers and thoughts go out to Joe and Molly. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, and one last thing, Joe did a lot of shows at one point. And if you get people in mindsets and stuff, he's relief to them.
Yep.
And always being there is a routine for these people. And what it brings you out of whatever funk you're in.
Yeah.
I think Joe sensed that too. It's like that feeling of, I don't know what the reason or purpose is for me needing to do this, but I'm feeling compelled that it is important enough that I need to do it, whether or not I see it or feel it. I think that Joe sensed that people appreciated him, even though maybe he didn't see it in color or see all the details or intricacies of that, he felt compelled to do a show. I remember one time, you know, it wasn't one of the times where he said, I'm done, I'm quitting.
Mhm.
It was one of those times where he said, I don't have a time to do 2 shows. I'm just going to do one.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, like 12 days later, he was doing 3 shows a week. It's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute here. Yeah.
Well, I remember always saying to Joe off when we weren't on camera, I said, do you know why I come onto your show? And he, of course, goes, well, no. I said, because every time I come on your show, it's like you're hanging out with somebody who's this good friend. You don't have to have pretend. You don't have some kind of alternative motive. And that's when he first started working too with, was it Leah? The author?
Yeah, Lee Roberts.
You know, and that they always created this kind of, like Jen, you as well, this environment where just relax. Like Joe, I mean, in a funny way, it's like Joe's like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, but let's sit around and talk about it anyway. You know?
Yeah.
And then you can just relax and say, I have no fucking idea what I'm sorry about swearing, what I'm talking about, but I want to know what I'm talking about. As you said earlier, Jen, I don't know, but I would like to know. So maybe I'm a little smarter off. You know, I make mistakes.
I think that was half our shows for a year and a half, Leon.
Yeah, I think even when he didn't have the answer or didn't understand the question clearly, he still had a want to figure it out. You know what I mean? I mean, if the conversation, I can tell you, it feels like this. I tell people, I don't need to have an intimate knowledge of what 2 teams are playing each other. Tell me what their mascots are and tell me what color their uniforms are, and I'll pick who I want to win. Right?
Team,
I kind of feel like Joe was like that, even if he wasn't connected to the discussion. He'd find an active role in it, and he'd make sense. I mean, he really was well thought out, even when he was going on the fly. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I would love to spread, if I could have just a little of his ashes, I would love to put them on Mount St. Helens.
Yeah, I don't think you can transport it to the mail though.
No, that's
what I was going to caution about. I don't know if you should be saying about what you're going to be doing with your ashes, because I think there's a law that says inappropriate.
In my truck, I have my best friend died 3 years ago, and I have in my truck a portion of his ashes that I was supposed to put them in a hunting area that we would hunt together in. I did a little bit, but I was selfish and kept the rest, and it's still in my truck. And I had a bad accident today, and I feel like that he had something to do with me not getting seriously injured, because it was a good accident. So I think that sometimes people are looking out for you like that, because I refuse to let him go. So
I'm glad you're all right, Jack.
I was out in the bush 2 days ago, second time, and I'm going out tomorrow, which is trying my limits. But the guy I'm going with, it's very rare you come across somebody who's afraid of the forest or the bush and being in the bush. And he's got this great massive, like narrow Jeep, but really high up. And he was driving in spaces that are way smaller than a truck. And I'm thinking to myself, and I said to him, you know, Shane, if we get stuck, I can't help you. And he goes, I'll pick you up and pull you out of here. I said, because I don't no self-service. Nobody knows where we are. We're in the back road. But I came across this one area, and I was trying to think about, when you guys were talking about geocaching, I was actually thinking about that when I was up there in this area. I thought I should make some kind of little thing here for Joe, kind of a memory place, and then film it and then say, Joe, I wanted to let you know that this is one of my areas I work in. And every time I come here, I will stop in here as an extension. It's kind of like if you're in a relationship with somebody and they're away from you and it's a full moon outside, you ask them to go outside while they're talking to you on the cell phone. You say, you see the moon? Yeah, I'm looking at the moon now. I'm not that far from it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a lot of the dynamics Joe is going through is very kind of internal. I've been sending him lots of pictures of boys hugging each other. I sent him a picture of 2 boys on a deck fishing, you know. that stuff is emotionally what he's needing to work through. Is that I'm with you, Joe. I understand. It's right there again, sad. It's sad that I can't go through this with you, but I'm still here with you. And
I think everybody
he's gonna be cheering us on. He ain't gonna be, I mean, metaphysically kind of thinking, or spiritually, whatever we're trying to put on this. But
I think everybody that goes out in the woods, that take a rock, write Rasta on it, take it out there, have a Rasta rock spot.
well, actually, that would be neat to do geocache, do a thing for geocache for Joe across North America. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Wouldn't that be kind of cool?
That would be funny.
It would be interesting, all the little knickknacks that he has behind him and in his area. I don't want to rob Molly of any memories, but if there were some little trinket, intricate things, insignificant things that you could put in an ammo can and, paint it yellow and you hide it somewhere, and you have an actual geocaching week of putting out like 20 coordinates across North America, how cool that would be.
Yeah, and then
just
on your
send
show,
one to Sean, send one to Leon, send one to Birch, and just
would
tell everybody go hide it in your area,
Yeah. And then and when you find it, you take a picture of yourself with it, and then that's a cute little thing to do, Thus, we start a new religion. We already got the religion. We just need tradition for the religion. So, I do have to go though, but Jeff, I want to thank you.
Yeah,
I think
I'm going to land
really
this
idea, and I'm glad that you had the courage to expose your heart and your tears to everybody, which helps us do that as well. Same with all you guys. So, and Sean, it is great to see that you're still breathing, man.
Yeah, I'm still kicking.
Yeah, so
it's hard to
I
take
gotta go
me out.
too, guys. Jeff,
right.
thanks for letting me come on.
Appreciate
Jen, I
you,
love
Jay.
you. I miss you. I hope we get together again. Sean, thank God that we know you're alive. Jesus.
Yeah, come on, man.
Send a brother a message now and then, for Christ's sake.
Hey, wait a second. The whole 6 months I was gone, the only guy who messaged me was CFB.
All right.
I'm like, Brent, everybody's talking backstage about you. I go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you coming on, and I'll say a few words here, and I think it'll be probably tomorrow morning when this gets uploaded to the podcast, but I look forward to hopefully having some great news by the end of the weekend that we've reached this goal. And
that would be sweet. I think we already did, actually. I posted it. We were on it in a few different sites as we were doing it live too. So
yeah, I've been watching this, but I know when I refresh it, it's not showing it correctly. Plus, we've got $350 that I'm going to have Alex forward to them. So we'll get them there. I'm pretty sure we'll get them there probably by this time tomorrow. But
nice.
Well, I'm just saying, here's the goal. Let's just keep.
Yeah. There's no rule that we can't double it, right?
Love him on him so hard because he has such a hard time of letting people care for him. He's always stoic that way. I just said, "Fuck's sake, let them love on you, Joe." Like God.
Yeah.
Let them love
he's this is the way God made him. He's just kind of he appreciates so much, but like you said, when you go to break news like he had to break here a few weeks ago, and he starts out with saying, "I'm sorry," like he owes us some sort of an apology. Yeah. That floors me. So
yeah.
But anyways, I appreciate you guys joining, and we will stay in touch. And Sean, I look forward to talking to you here soon. I'll reach out to you. And Jay and Trackway, appreciate you guys popping on. Jen and Leon, I talk to pretty regularly on Messenger, so I'll be continuing that. As far as me doing a show, I don't have any plans yet of doing another show, but I told Doug the other night I'm not opposed to maybe once a month doing a show, but I really don't want to go out and just search for a guest just to do a show.
No,
I'd rather take moments like this and find great reasons to go out and do a show in this community. And I'm not saying that it has to be a tragedy or something like that to do it. But, you know, I'd like to find reasons that bring the community together to do a show rather than just do another interview, you know. But appreciate you guys. You guys have a great rest of your weekend.
You too.
See you, Jay. See you, Jen. See you,
Bye,
Sean.
everyone. Take care.
Good night, everybody. Love you, Jag.
Bye bye. Love you too, sweetheart.
All right. Well, I appreciate all you guys for tuning in and being a part of the show tonight. It's just such a great outpouring of feelings and sentiment. I do apologize, especially to the podcast crowd, for any of the swear words that happened, although I did expect that it would be occasionally, you know, not often, but occasionally, just because it is a very emotional conversation and there's a lot that people are experiencing who are close to Joe in dealing with this, that it would be unrealistic to think we're going to do it over 2-hour show and nobody's going to swear. But I will apologize for that. And I don't think any of it was done with any disrespectful intention. So also, I know Joe might not be watching now, but if tomorrow when he watches the rest of this or when he watches it with Molly, I hope they had an opportunity for a couple hours tonight to really gauge and feel the impact that Joe has had over the years on people in this community and the impact that he will continue to have even after he's gone. And I'm just so proud of all of you in chat who showed up and took the time to lift Joe and Molly up. Those of you who have donated, had some big donations come in tonight here. And it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it isn't just losing or the thought of losing somebody important in the community. I think for many of us, it's the feeling of losing a friend or a brother or somebody who understood me or who I understood and had that connection with. And there are more than a few people who felt that with Joe. And I mean hundreds of people who have seen his shows over the years and felt this is my kind of guy. I connect with this guy. I feel what he feels. I feel like he understands me. I feel like what he's talking about, that his position and his conversation was designed for me. It's like a lot of people when you go to church and you hear the sermon and you think, wow, the preacher wrote this. It's like he's talking to me. I think a lot of people felt that when they got into Joe's channel and felt a conversation like, man, I really needed to hear this tonight, or I needed to experience this tonight. And I think that happened more than a few times for an awful lot of people. And for those who have reached out and said, thank you for doing the show, I want you to know that not just myself, but Doug and Alex and all of us hosts at Untold Radio, especially the few of us that have been on Joe's show or Joe's been on our show and we've developed a relationship with him. We are extremely honored to be able to help Joe and Molly tonight. And hopefully by the end of the weekend, we can get them to that financial mark of $10,000 on the GoFundMe right now. Shows it's at about $8,800, and we've got about $350 in donations here tonight, which we'll forward to it. So that's going to put them, well over 9,000. But like Jen said, no need to quit. the $10,000 that they set this goal at, honestly, probably will not be enough to do everything. Even if it was enough to cover all of the hard, burdensome expenses of someone passing away. I look at all the things that Molly would like to do in Joe's honor after he's gone, and you can't raise enough money when it comes to that. Over the coming years, I would like to see Joe's legacy live on through that. And I would hate to think that an expense would be an issue with that. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And like Joe says, don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff. Take care and have a great rest of your weekend.